Hey, what is up? Welcome to this episode of the Entrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian Lofermento, and I am so excited for today's episode because we are joined by an incredible guest, a brilliant fellow entrepreneur. This is somebody who I am just in awe at what they've built when it comes to the technology and the business that they've built, but also I'm in awe at the way that he articulates so many important and valuable aspects of business that all of us need to think about in our own lives and businesses. So let me introduce you to him. His name is Matt Cauthorn. Matt is the co-founder of Duplex Media, which is a bootstrapped technology company that specializes in all forms of technical sales. You might be thinking to yourself, what does that mean? Well, here's the thing. When it comes to selling, we all know that seeing is believing. We all wish that we could show people how amazing our products or services are. And at Duplex Media, they do something that I have literally never seen before. And it takes a lot to impress me, more than 1,400 episodes in. So at Duplex, they build and manage what they call DemOS, which is the demo operating system. It's a private SaaS platform that gives cybersecurity vendors on-demand, production-like demo environments they can spin up and tear down at will. They are quite different in the way they operate. They don't just provide the infrastructure, they build the scenarios, playbooks, and integrations that make every demo actually sell. I'm so excited to dive into all the different ingredients of this fellow entrepreneur's brilliance. So let's dive straight into my interview with Matt Cauthorn. All right, Matt, I am so very excited that you're here with us today. First things first, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Brian. Good to see you.
Heck yes. Obviously, you and I were geeking out about business. Even off air, we couldn't stop ourselves. So I'm glad we're recording now. Matt, I'm going to put you on the spot first. Take us beyond the bio. Who's Matt? How'd you start doing all these cool things?
Well, it's a long and twisted tale, Brian, really. But I'm a Gen Xer, right? And I grew up in South Florida back in the day. And way back then, I was a surf rat and a skate rat. And all of my buddies and I were into business. And mostly on the side hustle-y side, we always had a thing going. And that went from like ding repair for the surf shop to another buddy of mine and I tried to start a business selling skim boards. For the audience that may not be familiar, it's sort of an adjacent sport to surfing. And that was a little capital intensive and a little bit hard to get to market, but we did some good work there and met with a little bit of success at least. We ultimately got spanked out of the market. But then it went from selling fly rods on Amazon, coffee on Amazon, to working at a cybersecurity company through an exit, and now sticking with the cybersecurity theme and technical sales. We're doing that today. So that's a whirlwind tour of a lot of sort of tributaries in there, but that's the main arc, I guess.
Yeah, I love that, especially because, Matt, truth be told, in so many of our episodes, I feel like all of us entrepreneurs, the truth is that we all had seemingly non-linear paths. But if there's one thing that I've learned in my 17-year entrepreneurial journey up to this point, it's that a lot of things that we did that seemingly make no sense when we're in those moments, like how did e-commerce, how did Amazon, how did SkimSearch, how did all of those things turn into Duplex Media? A lot of people might think these are distinct chapters, but I've been in the game long enough to know that one thing builds on the other, one thing leads to another thing. Matt, when you look backwards at all those dots, how do you see them connecting in hindsight?
Honestly, they connect retroactively, and here's what I mean by that. So back in a fit of masochism, I grew up, we didn't have much growing up, and so was a lot of the impetus. It was sort of necessity is the mother of invention kind of thing. And most of my crew that I hung out with, we were all in the same boat. And, we just decided to sort of have our own sense of agency, and we raised each other effectively as a little crew. And that sense of agency really, I think, is the impetus for the permission scheme to start a business. And I say that, I use that term very deliberately, like you really do need to give yourself permission. And so fast forward, I'll get to the actual permission where it really, really landed. Fast forward years and years, I was working in corporate job, and at fit of masochism, my wife was very, very pregnant. I went back to get an MBA, and this is where the dots connect, Brian. I'm going to try to tie this all together. So, and one of the most powerful concepts during the master's program, which I don't remember much of, frankly, was all a blur, but I do remember a handful. And there was this woman, I won't say her name. I don't know if she would want that, but she was like this ninja double PhD professor I had. She was amazing. I love the way she thought about things. And she said, every business is a form of asymmetry. Every business opportunity is some sort of an asymmetry. And that really landed with me. And so tying back all the way to the early days in South Florida, like we were just identifying little asymmetries. It's like, well, we have the skill to fix surfboards, so we should probably do that and sell that skill. We have the skills to, I'm an avid fisherman, right? So I had the skills I understood what a good fly rod felt like in my hand. And so I started sourcing fly rods and customizing them and then selling them. It's all about identifying the asymmetries that sort of represent you as an individual and the unique things that make you up. Because there's everyone that's listening to this, I'll stop monologuing, I promise, but every listener right now has a set of asymmetries that they can fall on to create a business, full stop. I just deeply believe that to my core.
Yeah, Matt, I really love and appreciate that point. And to add on to that, I love the fact that you've tied permission into this. I feel like a lot of people, they've seen that Leonardo DiCaprio movie. It's called Catch Me If You Can. And it's about the real life story of Frank Abagnale. And I obviously became a famous fraudster, which then used his powers for good and was hired by the United States government. But in order to commit fraud, truth be told, you have to be pretty good at a lot of things. You have to be pretty good at human psychology. You have to be pretty good at sales and persuasion and all of these different things. And I saw an interview with Frank Abagnale where it was after he faked being a professor for a summer, and he got the highest ratings from students on campus. And the local news reporter, when it came out that he defrauded the university, they said, "Frank, how did you do that?" And he had such a brilliant answer that I've always taken to heart in my entrepreneurial journey, where he said, a lot of people think they have to be the best in the world to help other people. You just need to be one chapter ahead. And Matt, when I hear you talk about those insights, I think how frequently we talk ourselves out of ideas. We talk ourselves out of helping other people. And I don't know about your tennis game. You and I didn't talk about that off the air, but if you're not an avid tennis player, I'm certainly not the best in the world. I'm not even close to that. But I can probably improve your forehand at least a little bit because I'm at least one chapter ahead. And I think that that's so important. That said, I feel like there's so many different directions we can go into when we make that choice, when we give ourselves permission. Talk to us about the decisions you've made up to this point, including Full Duplex Media, about what those businesses look like, what your business today looks like. How did you actually decide on that? Because so many people get hung up on that even after they give themselves permission.
Yeah, that the sort of arc there is quite straightforward. We both, my co-founder and I, have, I'll use the term again. I promise I won't overuse it. I'll try not to, at least, but we have a set of asymmetries. We both came from tech, and we don't have, back in the day, we were in operations, right? And so we didn't have much time to do much else because it's an all-consuming. He was more on the development side. I was more on the hosting and security and app delivery side. And neither one of us had any time to get anything done. We weren't sleeping, we weren't whatever. And so we ended up going into technical sales. Both of us landed as pre-sales engineers, which in my opinion is the best possible role in tech if you can get it, or if you're wired for it. Not everyone's wired for it. But if you're comfortable with technical sales, and you're a technical person, then pre-sales engineering is just an amazing job. It's not perfect, but no job is. So we both ended up there. We both loved it, and we ended up dedicating our careers to it. Our company got bought, the company that we were both working for, and at that time, he and I both decided that we had been sort of building things for our current company to solve real problems, and we saw a pretty material opportunity on the technical demonstration and technical sales side in particular, because in the cybersecurity market in particular, and we're not exclusively cyber, although we tend to favor it because that's our world, but the marketplace is full of false claims. And the marketplace, if you're in a competitive situation, we were selling a very competitive market, and our competitors kept saying stuff that just wasn't true. And we said, collectively, we all took a step back. We're like, well, what if we could prove it? Like, instead of telling, why don't we do some more showing? And so we started with that sort of sales motion that changed the company. It changed the business. And so my co-founder and I, in 2021, we both left and then in 22, we started Full Duplex Media and built a platform to enable DemoS is the platform, as you said before, to enable technical sellers to demonstrate their product, to onboard new hires, and to proof of concept, even all the way down through the sales cycle, because things tend to get stuck in the middle of a sales funnel and a sales cycle with objections, right? 80% of the buyer journey, and this is true for pretty much any product, but especially technology, like a high ticket technology sale, 80% of the buyer journey happens out of band to the vendor. And so now, as a seller, especially as a technology seller, a technical seller, you have that last 20%, that last mile of time on target with a prospect to actually prove your claims and disprove a competitor's, or to help qualify the deal to begin with and find an optimal fit for your prospect. Because, I believe that this is true. Drucker, I think it's Peter Drucker, he said that, the purpose of a business is to create a customer, full stop, right? And so customer creation is this, I believe it's this very virtuous thing, at least it can and should be. And so how are you going to do that effectively if you can't effectively showcase your product in a real world setting with real, say, attacks, cybersecurity attacks going that prove your claims? Because I can say anything about any product in the world, but if I can't prove it, it means kind of nothing. So that's our ethos, and that's how it came to be. It all was, again, it came from our awareness of the market and the difficulties in the sales cycle with cybersecurity in particular. And we sought out to at least attempt to solve that problem as best we could. And I think we've done a pretty good job.
Yeah, Matt, I'll publicly say this. I'm sure that you're very aware of this, is that you have such a unique blend of skills and experiences, which all add up to an incredible vantage point that you understand. Clearly, you're very articulate and well-spoken. Clearly, you understand words and communication and messaging and that marketing psychology side of the world. But also, I mean, you pointed it out, being in the world of technical sales, you also have a very deep technical background that you understand that. And so you can speak the language of the person that you're talking to, regardless of if you're talking, I would imagine if you're talking to someone on the business side of things, someone on the production side of things, development, programming, all of that, is that you're comfortable in all of those. But what I think is so beautiful about what you guys have built with DemoS is that also transcends the person that you're talking to, because all of us, when we see things, we see it through our own lens. That's why I love that quote of, we don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. If you can actually show me something, probably your words will hit different than somebody else who's seeing the exact same thing but is viewing it through that different lens. And that's why I always come back to, in sales, that good old seeing is believing statement, where it's so much easier to show somebody. I want you to go deeper here for listeners who haven't seen DemoS just yet. Obviously, we're going to drop the links at the end of today's episode, but they might be thinking, so is this just a video that you play for people? Is it just something that you show them? Talk to us about the actual brilliance of it being a production-esque environment where things actually happen. Pull back the curtain for us there.
Yeah, no, thank you for all that. And thanks for the opportunity to explain it more, because I don't think I did a particularly good job. So you're saving me here. So, infrastructure in the cloud in particular, anyone with any sort of exposure has heard of SaaS and services, and almost all that stuff runs in the cloud anymore. And the cloud has done a wonderful job. The cloud, capital T, capital C, right? Just writ large. It's all the big players. They've done a wonderful job of automating infrastructure provisioning and like spinning up environments and tearing them down and scaling and all that, right? And so, but there's a big problem there when you're a company and there's a term that the cloud providers themselves, in fact, years ago, early on, they call it, Brian, undifferentiated heavy lifting, right? So now let's do a thought experiment. You and I, Brian, we're a cybersecurity company, and we've got this really killer product. We want to take this product to market, and we've got funding now, we've got a sales team, and so now we're tasked with taking it to market. Okay, so how do you actually do that? Because are you going to build your own environment? Like, how are you going to demonstrate it effectively? Well, you certainly could do videos, and in fact, the media part of our full Duplex Media is we do, we're going to be producing videos and having my co-founder and I are going to have conversations, public conversations about the problem space that we live in and how we attempt to solve it. And also, sure, you want a video, you want to market, you want a website, but like, it's a technical product and none of it matters unless you're actually using it in a contextually relevant way to your prospects. Are they in financial services? Are they in healthcare? Or are they just, or are they in the automotive industry? Whatever, it doesn't matter. They're all sort of working inside of this technical context. And the industry that they play in largely defines the technologies that they select and the way their technology stack works and things like that. So for you and I, as our imaginary cybersecurity company, how are we going to actually take our stuff to market effectively? That it's very, very crowded because there's a lot of money in cyber. It's because talk about an asymmetric battle, right? It's like there's a hacker has to get their thing right one time, and the defenders on the corporate side need to be right every time. So it's a very hard problem to solve, and there's a lot. That's why there's so many companies, and so we live in service of enabling cybersecurity vendors in particular, but technical sellers with complicated products, showcase their stuff in its optimal light in a contextually rich and authentic way. And the last mile is we produce the actual traffic and the attacks, and we shrink wrap everything with like their product at the epicenter. We do all of the integrations. We take it all the way through to the last mile. Most of the state of the art today drops their users off at the infrastructure. They say, well, here's a server. Brian, Matt, good luck with your cyber company. You're going to have to build it. We don't do that. We build it. We take it all the way to the hilt so they could actually prove their concept with the customer. They can share a link with their customer. Their customer drops into the environment. They're experiencing the product in an authentic, real-world way with real user accounts. It's all synthetic. There's no sensitive data, but it's all accurate. It's all consistent with what their target customers would be running in their environments. And it gives them a level, the sellers, our customers. So we're really we're like the backstage crew at the Natalie Merchant show or whatever the show is, right? I used to work in technical production, right? So we're like the backstage crew dressed in black, and no one should see us, really. What we want is to showcase our customers' product in its optimal light so their customers can see exactly what they're getting into and whether or not it's going to actually meet their requirements up or down. Even a no, like it's like, here's what our product does in this realistic environment. Even if they get a no, it helps the sales cycle because now they're not just spinning their wheels trying to, squeeze lemonade from a rock or whatever the metaphor is. I forget it right now, but you get the idea. Like it's authentic and it's real and it's deterministic in that way. Like you can see the product in action and it repeats and it scales. It's like, I need 10 of these for a trade show. And then when the customer says, cool, Brian and Matt, we like your cyber stuff. Let's go POC it. We're going to put some of it in our environment, right? Cool. We do that and boom, we spin up a parallel environment in DemoS. Because the sellers need that to like drop in. It's like, hey, customer, you're not going to do this in your environment because it might be a little bit too invasive or whatever. Let's drop over to DemoS. It's the real product in a real environment, and we're going to be able to make our changes there and test it there. And so what we see is the sales cycles accelerate pretty dramatically. Onboarding time. I'm not going to pitch the whole thing now, but like we really accelerate the onboarding time for new sellers. We help business development teams prove like business relationships and integration capabilities very, very quickly with low friction. And even the technical marketers up at the top of the funnel to produce content, proof of concepts, like for a new attack that comes out, because it's a very high velocity world, right? As cybersecurity, as a cybersecurity company, you and I, Brian, we got a lot to keep up with. There's a lot of attacks, right? And so we help with all of the agility, and we have all this enabling technology to help these people respond to the moment of the market and to meet the market and their customers wherever they're at.
Yeah, it's so cool. I really appreciate how much you share with us in that answer, because we're all going to take away for our own businesses what that version of show, don't tell can look like. And I think that you guys set the bar extraordinarily high, because it's that real feeling of now it's not me hypothetically talking to you about something. And I think that it's all too common in the business world where we're talking in hypotheticals. Oh, if you work with us, here's an example of what that could look like. And there's so many unknowns and uncertainties in the world of business. Matt, I'm going to pick on the timing of you and I having this conversation. Here we are towards the tail end of Q1 2026, and everyone's freaking out about AI. AI is changing every single industry. There's no way that we can ignore that. That's right. Sales is no different. Sales is being changed every single day thanks to AI, and I feel like everyone is wondering, what's that version of tomorrow look like? To me, what you guys have built and what you guys are rolling out for your clients, that's timeless. That's never going to change. And I think that is becoming increasingly difficult to have things that withstand the test of time. And part of that is you guys have gone back to the human element. What, from a psychological perspective, will actually get someone to make a decision, will actually get somebody to understand and grasp things? Talk to us about that component of your business, because I know how intentional you guys are about what you've built and how you've rolled it out and the gap that it plugs in the marketplace. But I also know that you have a unique vantage point with regards to AI and the ever-changing world that we're in. So how does all that factor into your mind from that co-founder perspective?
Yeah, that's a huge question. So I'm going to break it. The AI part in particular is because everyone, present company included, we're all trying to navigate this world, and we've never seen a technology evolve this fast ever. And in one way, it's kind of part of the greatest human experiment ever hatched by companies ever. And in another way, it's this enabling technology that really does reverse the polarity at a societal level of like the sort of haves versus the have-nots in many respects. Like one could imagine, just a quick commentary on AI. And I'm not a doomer at all. I'm cautiously optimistic, and we're heavy users of AI ourselves. I think every business has to be. If you're not, you're deficient. Like, it's just objectively true. And so you have to not only use AI, but you have to be good at it. You have to learn how to sort of divine what you need to conjure it out of the system. But going back just on the implications of it, imagine having an AI that's a very small form factor that contains all of this knowledge. And you could tailor a system that was very, very cheap on the dollar and send it to the most rural parts of the third world globally and provide an education for K through 12. No internet, no nothing, just this device, right? And like, that's the promise of it. That part of the promise. There's a lot of promises, and the other parts are kind of scary, right? Going back to the present day and the business side of it, the AIs now are very, very powerful at invoking and managing workflows. And having an AI agent in particular, it's not just the large language model, but the agents and the agent workflows. And you can give an agent a personality and a disposition and a sort of worldview and a set of tasks, and it will do that if you provide it with the right tools. And then one agent can coordinate with another. And so we're pretty heavy users of AI, and our roadmap is going to become increasingly more and more sort of AI first, because it's so enabling, not for us as a business, and it is, by the way, but for our customers. Because, the holy grail is to be able to ask an AI to get something done for you and have a powerful demo come out the other side, right? And so that's what we're working towards very actively. Yeah. And we're mostly there, frankly. So fun.
I love to hear that, Matt, especially because replacement is the word that the AI doomers often come back to. Talk to us about that, because you've worked in technical sales, and you obviously, through your client roster, you see, in fact, I would imagine, and I'm super curious from your perspective, I would imagine that the industry that you serve probably feels even better about their positioning in the marketplace, because there will be an increased need, because threats are ever evolving at this point. Even as podcasters, we are well aware of how easy it is to clone voices these days, especially when there's 1,400 plus episodes of our voices out there. Yeah, and so there's a whole new threat vector out there. What's your perspective? I guess this is part micro within your industry, but also part macro, Matt. I'm going to borrow your voice and your attitude here for our listeners with regards to those concerns about replacement in the economy and what it's going to do to entire industries. I'm hearing a hopeful message from you today.
I think so. Look, the truth of the matter is, the blast radius of AI and AI's capabilities in the professional sense is now making itself felt in a very active way, in particular with software development in the legal practice and some other areas. Now, the question is that going to mean, like, do I not get my computer science degree or whatever? The answer, I really think the answer is yes, you should do those things, but you should do it with an eye towards, again, going back to this differentiation, this asymmetry thing. It's like, you're a freaking human, and it's up to us as humans to bring our impact into the world of AI and to use it as a superpower that accelerates our capabilities versus represents some sort of existential threat. I really believe that that's true. Now, is it going to be disruptive, especially in the short term? I think that it will, unfortunately. But I think, as it relates to our business, and I think I'm going to tie this into the human element. We cater to sellers and companies that try to sell stuff. And there is no more authentic voice than the human voice. Like the AI is just not particularly authentic, and we're going to end up with this weird sort of callus that forms about, like, this reaction that forms. It's negative to AI that's trying to convince us of something. Humans that are trying to, like, actually communicate authentically are going to win. Like, it's the human touch. So I think that especially in our sort of little corner of the world, catering to technical sellers, it's like, if you're good with your words and you can communicate effectively and you know how to wield AI to help enhance those capabilities, then that's really what the winning formula looks like moving forward. I just don't see AI replacing many technical sellers probably ever. I think they might help the buyers on their journey quite a bit. And I think that a lot of companies can use AI effectively for lots and lots of things like we do. But at the end of the day, we're humans. And I think that the sort of value coefficient for human beings is going to continue to increase, maybe on a steeper curve than the AI itself. Let's hope.
So well said. Gosh, Matt, I feel like this is only the tip of the iceberg of your brilliance. We could probably go so deep and multiple hours long of an episode and conversation about sales or about human psychology or about unique differentiating factors, about so many different things that you've exhibited here with us today. But because time is short, I'm going to ask you a super broad question that I always ask at the end of every episode. You can take it in any direction you want, and that is, what's your best piece of advice for listeners? Knowing that we're being listened to by both entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs at all different stages of their own growth journeys, and knowing that you are one of us, you're a fellow entrepreneur, what's that one thing you want to leave them with today?
It's actually pretty simple, and it's a lesson. There's a lot of lessons I have yet to learn, because that's part of the entrepreneurship journey, right? Is like, you just don't know. And you have to embrace the uncertainty, and you have to embrace the sense of comfort and chaos. And which I happen to like. I like a little bit of chaos and navigating it, but it's all about permission. I said that before, and we kind of started the episode there. I'm going to fall back to giving yourself permission to fail, right? Our coffee business didn't work because the margins weren't right. And it was just too much, like, it didn't work out for us. And so we shuttered it. And so then you carry that forward, and just know that, there's nothing special about, I really believe that this is true, by the way. There's nothing special about Jeff Bezos. like he's a smart guy, sure, and he had a great idea and a great opportunity, but like they're just human beings, and they all have their own story arc and they all have their own experiences, just like everyone listening. And it's like he might have had a bias towards action that most don't have, and he might have been more willing to give himself permission to try this crazy theory that wasn't profitable for many, many, many years, right? Much to the chagrin of investors and everybody else, and now look where they are. So really, like, I believe like giving yourself permission to say, you know what, maybe I am a founder of $1 million opportunity, or 10 or 20 or $100 million business. Or maybe I could very easily start a lifestyle business that cash flows $20,000 or $5,000 a month and changes my life. Like, everyone really does have that capability. And I'm not pep talking. Like, I genuinely believe that that's true. And so give yourself permission to try it. Give yourself permission to fail. I think people are, understandably, they're afraid of failure. And I think, but in the United States, at least, we embrace failure as part of the process. And so lean into that and give yourself permission. That's my message. If I had one, that's the one.
Oh, I love that. Matt, in over 1,400 episodes, I will very transparently say that is one of my favorite pieces of advice that's ever been given out at the end of one of these conversations. So super grateful for you offering that advice, not just to our listeners, but to me as well. I'm sitting here taking notes, frantically writing away on my whiteboard. So Matt, you are such a shining example in so many different ways. I know I've sung your praises a few times during our conversation, but I cannot sing them enough. And that's before listeners have even seen with their own eyes the brilliance of what you guys have built at Full Duplex Media. So I'm really excited for them to not just listen to us talk about it, but of course, go see it with their own eyes. Matt, for listeners who do want to find you guys online, drop some links on us. Where should listeners go from here?
Okay, so it's fullduplex.media is our main website, and keep an eye out for it. We're still actively building out the go-to-market. We've been sort of in stealth mode for several years now, but we're now out there, and we're going to be posting videos on YouTube, and the best place to reach us is through the website or on LinkedIn. Actually, we're not huge on the other social media channels. Our watering hole is LinkedIn, and we're going to stick with that for now.
Yes, and listeners, you already know we're making it as easy as possible for you to find those links down below in the show notes, no matter where it is that you're tuning into today's episode. Not only are we linking to the Full Duplex Media's LinkedIn profile, but we're also linking to Matt's personally. So you've heard how accessible he is. You've heard how brilliant he is. If you want to continue the conversation, or you're a potential partner, you want to introduce him to somebody like I certainly already do, then reach out to Matt. And of course, check out all the links down below in the show notes. Otherwise, Matt, on behalf of myself and all the listeners worldwide, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Brian. I love the show and love your energy, so thank you. And I appreciate all the kind words. I don't know if it's deserved, but I'll take it. So thank you.